West Virginia has been picked to finish dead last in the Big 12, according to FanDuel. Their win total of 5.5. Well, it's a win total thing. It's not necessarily a rankings, but they had the lowest expected win total in the conference, 5.5 at FanDuel, and I think Circa Sports had them at 5. A lot of fans seem to be disappointed in that. Saying hammer the over, whatever. And I do agree that they'll win more than 5 games. But what are your thoughts on is that about right for the team, or is that too low? What are your thoughts on that, on those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, so I would revert back to a show that I actually did for you while you were on vacation, where one of the questions presented to me a little bit different, but similar along these lines um, was it more likely West Virginia would win closer to 5 or closer to 10? And at that point, I went with 5. So I think 5 is a I think it's a little low, but I do think West Virginia answered it then. I think they're closer to 5 than 10. Now, is that 6 wins? Is it 7? Who knows? But I would think it was a little low for myself. I think West Virginia probably starts the season 3-0. You're not facing that. Penn State, you don't have that kind of that troublesome right off the gate,
Yeah.
like they have wanted to do in the past or have done in the past. So I think it's pretty favorable. You and I do a show on this. We did every year to start the season, or we did last year, where we break these down. So we'll go into more detail. But I feel like the schedule is favorable for West Virginia early. I'm thinking just kind of off the top of my head here. Obviously, Robert Morris, you're going to go to Ohio. You've got Pitt at home, right? So I think you're 3 wins there. And so if you're just trying to get to 5, you're looking for 2 more in conference, and I think you can accomplish that. So I think it's a little bit low. I don't necessarily think they're going to win 9 or 10 games, but I think they'll go over 5.
Gotcha. All right. I agree with you. I'm with you, and I was thinking about that as well. That show you were talking about, I was thinking about that today when I was thinking about topics to talk about tonight, and this came into my mind, and I harken, just like you harken back to that show. It was a great question by whoever asked it, but I do think we need to keep expectations realistic for a team who's going to have about 75 new players. But I also think that, like you said, they should start. Look, and I'm not going to sit here and say Pitt's going to be a cakewalk, but they should start off 3-0. I'm also not going to pick us to lose to Pitt, so we should start off 3-0. At
Yeah.
least at least not yet. Should
So
start
so
off.
far we're in agreement
Yeah, should,
months early.
yeah, should start off 3-0. They got Big 12 play starting with Kansas at Kansas, the very first Big 12 game in their new stadium.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through the whole schedule here, but point being, there are a lot of winnable games on West Virginia's schedule and a lot of losable games on that schedule too. So, and the way the Big 12 is, it's so hard to predict. Every year we see teams
Yeah.
be at or near the bottom, end up finishing at the top, and teams that are supposed to be at the top finish near the
Yeah.
bottom. So I don't expect it to be any different this year. Can West Virginia, that team that starts out, predicted it near the bottom and be at the top? I think they can, but will they be? That's a whole nother story and a whole nother conversation. We will get into our preseason predictions as we get closer to that first game. But yeah, I'm like you. I thought 5 was too low, but at the same time, I'm not looking at it going, man, that's just total disrespect. I didn't get
Yeah.
that feeling either. You know,
I mean, I agree, and I think that the question would be, for those that kind of think that 5 is too low, what what is your expectation? Because is it? I mean, if you were going off and thinking, I think West Virginia's going to win 6 or 7 games, I don't feel like you would be disrespected necessarily at 5. While I think West Virginia goes over. And like you said, we'll talk about each individual game, but just to kind of revert back to last year, I don't think anybody, us included, thought West Virginia would have the season that they had. I don't think we anticipated Oklahoma State to have what they had. I think you could say the same thing about BYU last year, Arizona State last year. We thought Arizona, and so it's almost like the conference in a way was flipped over on its head. And I don't know why we wouldn't expect the same kind of craziness or chaos this year. I think the biggest question for me is, and this is going to sound a little crazy to say, but while I think it's possible West Virginia wins 5, weirdly enough, because I think it's also possible that they can win 8 or 9.
Right.
I just think that West Virginia has to be able, with such roster turnover and such coaching turnover. I mean, this literally from top to bottom has been completely changed. And how quickly, if it can, how quickly can this entire program catch its stride? I do think that they're probably fortunate that you don't have a Penn State on the schedule, that you get Robert Morris, you get Ohio on the road, you get Pitt at home. And again, might take some beating in the comment section here on this one, but Pitt's not necessarily going to be a rollover football program. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, they're not Alabama, but they're also not going to be a Robert Morris that you open week 1 with either. So, but I think it's good that West Virginia has this schedule set up with everything that's going on in the program. So, just as much as I think 5 and 6 wins is possible, I actually think 8 and 9 is possible as well. And I can't wait until we get a little more clarity on each team. I mean, I don't know if you've paid much attention, but as we're recording this on a Wednesday night, apparently there's some issues at BYU with their starting quarterback.
Yes.
How much does that change their team and the outlook that, even though it's May, how does that team look now? And so once we get a little more clarity on these, I'll be able, I feel like, maybe to down a little bit more. But as of right now, to answer the original question, yes, I think it's too low, but not by much.
Yeah, and it's not like I said. I don't. A lot of times, was it 2 years ago? West Virginia was picked to finish 14th in the conference. I thought that was disrespectful, but based on what they had coming back, and I thought that was just absolutely insane. I don't get that same feeling. Now, this is not the Big 12 media here. This is a whole different deal.
Right.
But I'm sure it'll probably be pretty close. Usually these preseason prognostications are typically all pretty close. You might have a few teams here and there that are different, but I don't look at this one and go, man, they're just absolutely crazy, because here's what I do, Jonathan. I put myself in the shoes as now that somebody who talks football and who does prediction type stuff. And when I'm looking at the Big 12 teams and doing my preseason predictions, what's one of the first things I look at? Returning talent.
Yeah.
What do they have coming back? And if a team's got a ton of turnover, I normally predict them to finish near the bottom of the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So why should I expect other people to not view West Virginia in the same light?
Yeah.
It would be hypocritical of me. But as a fan, though, if I was just to put my fan glasses on, I would look at it and go, man, that's ridiculous. But to look at it from an analyst perspective or media perspective, if you want to call it that, I actually think it kind of makes sense where they are.
Yeah.
Right?
I have to tell you, Couz, I cannot wait to get my hands on, a Phil Steele's magazine, and we get a little bit closer to practice, and we can start diving these. Yeah, there you go.
That's last year's version, obviously.
Yeah.
The new one is not out yet.
Yeah.
It goes to press in 16 days, baby.
Yeah. Just can't wait. And that's when it really gets good is you get, like I said earlier, you get a little bit more direction on these, a little more clarity on the teams. And again, for time's sake, I won't go through them, but I mean, you've got so many, this, as I sit here in May, this conference is going to be wild. I mean, you look at West Virginia and Oklahoma State, for example, didn't have the seasons they want to. Has anybody hit the portal hard and potentially better than Oklahoma State? I mean, they've went out and got everybody. But how quickly do they mesh? Same with West Virginia. Can Arizona State repeat a performance? Utah was down. Everybody thought Utah was going to be up last year. They were not good, to put it kindly. How do they bounce back? Because you just feel like they have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kansas in a new stadium, a little momentum there with what they've
Jalen
got coming
and
back.
Jalen Daniels back. Yep.
Yeah, and in Texas Tech, they also did well in the port. There's just so many questions, and you could throw TCU's in there, Baylor's in there, Cincinnati's in there. I mean, we could just spend a whole show, and we will, talking about all this. But it's going to be a wide open Big 12, and I think it
Fun,
sounds
man.
crazy. It's going to be a blast.
There are some talented players. I was looking the other day, man. There is a lot of returning talent in the Big 12 at the quarterback position.
There's a ton.
There's a ton of running back position is slept on, maybe more than any position group in the conference, man.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you could say this about in the world we live in today with the culture and the NIL and all this. I think you could say it about every school, but specifically Big 12. I mean, almost everybody just completely reloaded. It seems like. I mean, just it wasn't plug and play here or there, 2 or 3 different spots. I mean, it was monster overhauls, and so I can't wait to get closer. And man, we are getting closer.
Mhm.
And once we can kind of dial it in a little bit, I think that it's going to come down to which school can have a little bit more, which can get their stride a little bit. So if it happens,
Yeah.
how early and how quickly can they get it? And West Virginia, I think that they have slowly but surely started to add the talent to get there. It's just a matter of how well and how soon can it come
Can it
together. But
mesh? Yeah.
I think this video could come back and haunt me, but today I definitely think it's over 5. How much higher? I don't know, but I think
Right.
it's over 5.
Agreed.